Marduk was examining the sawgun as he walked down the path, steadily traveling towards Ariana City. For the past week, since he had found the weapons cache, he had thought of nothing else. Marduk was so engrossed by the strange mechanism that contained the saws that he didn't notice two men sneak up behind him and raise their clubs. He turned around and put the sawgun in his pocket just in time to see the clubs come down. He felt sharp pains on his nose and forehead, then everything went black. When he woke up, it was night. The moon was full. Blood was streaming down the back of his head, and he could feel that his nose was broken. He cringed as he tried to sit up. Every part of his body was sore. He brought his hand up to try and straighten his nose, but the effort caused a stream of blood to become a flood. He blacked out again. When he woke again, his body was less sore, but he still had trouble moving. The bleeding had stopped, but Marduk noticed that his skin was extremely pale. Blood loss. He pushed himself into a sitting position, then looked around him. He was in a deep ditch, nowhere near where he had been attacked. He started to climb up the hill. It took him all day, and he had to stop every few steps to rest. He made it up to the path and tried to stand up. He couldn't and passed out from exhaustion. Marduk opened his eyes. He was on the back of a wagon. It was night again. He looked up at the moon and was astonished to find that it was almost full. It had been nearly a month since he had been attacked. He looked around. He was sharing the wagon with 2 chickens and a goat. The goat bleated dolefully.
Where am I?
So you're awake?
Marduk saw a man had been driving the wagon. The man stopped the wagon and walked up to the side of the cart and smiled at Marduk.
I was beginning to wonder if you'd ever wake up. I'm Vince. What's your name? Where are you from?
Hi, I'm, Marduk.
He found it difficult to speak.
So what were you doing with those Rheledith goons? When I found you, there were some Rheledith acolytes looting your body. They're a church, not raiders, so you must have had something they wanted.
Marduk checked his pocket and found that the sawgun was still there.
Oh, is that one of them ancient Umnian relics? It is, isn't it? That'd be what they want, I bet. I'd bet my last dollar. Everybody wants those. Everybody.
This Vince was a strange fellow. He walked forward and began driving the wagon again.
Where are you taking me?
To Adorek, of course. The temple there has amazing doctors, and their priests can perform miracles. Either way, you'll be healed.
Vince's grin widened. Marduk smiled back weakly. The exchange had drained him of his energy. He fell asleep in the back of the wagon. He came to in a room that reminded him of home. For a moment his heart skipped a beat when he saw the sun streaming in and thought he was late for inspection. He tried to sit up but couldn't because he was being restrained. He struggled for a bit, then just relaxed. He would have to wait for someone to come. He was too weak to move even if the restraint wasn't there. Marduk didn't have to wait long. An attendant quickly came into the room and saw he was awake. Minutes later the doctor arrived. Then shortly after the priest, and behind them was Vince, smiling as ever. The doctor took a look at the back of Marduk's head, then made some notes. He took the restraint off and got Marduk to sit up. The priest began an intonation.
Here, drink this.
The doctor handed Marduk a bowl of liquid. Marduk drank it. It was bitter. The doctor then left and motioned for Vince to follow.
I'll stay.
Vince looked scared. The priest finished his prayers and threw back his hood.
Now, we begin the purity tests. Our lords Kotor and Rock cannot save an impure soul, and all of that imbecile's herbs will do nothing without the approval of the gods. Praise be to the creators. Praise be to Rock!
Vince was slowly backing away from the priest towards the door.
You decided to stay. Now you shall stay. No man must reverse his decisions. To do such is impure. Fetch me the holy fire.
Vince ran out the door to get the holy fire. The priest put his hood back on and began humming incantations again. Marduk was suspicious. This looked a lot like the cult he had seen eradicated from Tonid when he was 12. The cultists had taken acolytes from the temple and immersed them in a bonfire to be purified, and Marduk's eyes widened as he began looking around for an easy way to get out. The priest took a strangely elaborate death mask from his bag and tied it over Marduk's face.
Do not fear, young one. Many survive the purification. And those who don't, they were not pure, so they did not deserve to live.
How am I supposed to get out of here?
Marduk frantically thought about what he could do, but even without the restraints he couldn't have escaped. So he resigned himself to his death and began to pray. The priest noticed.
Ah, prayer. Yes. Good. Prayer is always good. But who is it you pray for? Kotor? Rock? Or some heathen pagan god? Heathens cannot protect you from the flames of faith.
Vince walked back into the room carrying a bowl of some strange liquid. The priest took the bowl and dipped a finger in the liquid. He put his finger in the candle next to Marduk's bed and it flared up.
Yes. Perfect. This shall truly test your purity.
He tightened Marduk's restraints and the death mask. He poured the liquid over the death mask. It snaked its way through the nose, mouth, and eye holes. It burned as it came in contact with Marduk's skin. He began to squirm. The priest smiled evilly. He grabbed the candle from the bedside table. He tossed it onto Marduk. As he passed out from the pain that had engulfed him, his last vision was Vince running out screaming for water.
Is he gonna make it, Doc?
I don't know. The burns were very extensive. I should have known better than to allow a disciple of Harok time alone with an injured person. Only time and Kotor can decide his fate now. But he will stand a better chance if we can get our hands on an Infados herb.
You got it, Doc. I'll get right on that.
So Vince packed up his things and went off into the forest to search for the Infados herb that could save Marduk. As this was happening, Marduk slipped deeper and deeper into a shock coma.
I can walk? How?
Marduk took a step. He examined his surroundings. It was all black except for one doorway of white light. He scrunched up his face and thought.
That's right. I was lit on fire by the cutlass. But what happened after? Where am I?
He began to walk towards the light. He could hear a discussion going on all around him. He couldn't make out the voices or what they were saying, but they sounded worried. Vince appeared in front of him. Marduk waved hello. Vince just stared. This wasn't the jovial man who'd saved Marduk's life. This was a shell. The Vince shell looked directly into Marduk's eyes. Marduk checked himself for weapons. He didn't trust this specter. His hands grasped around a small sword. He drew it and held it in front of him.
Don't come closer, demon! I shall fight you with sword and incantation.
The Vince shell just stared.
I'm warning you!
The Vince shell took a bow off of his back and put an arrow in it. He aimed at Marduk, fully drawn. Marduk ran forward. This creature wouldn't hesitate, so he wouldn't either. The arrow took Marduk squarely in the head and he was knocked out. His vision filled with light. He could see a doctor's face looking down on him. He tried to move. His muscles wouldn't obey. He tried to move his eyes. Those muscles wouldn't obey either. It had been a dream, a nightmare, but still better than this immobility. The doctor noticed Marduk was awake and comforted him.
There is no reason to be scared. Your friend Vince has gone to grab an Infados herb. You will survive. You must simply be strong.
Marduk could tell from his eyes that he was lying, but the calm tone of voice, completely devoid of panic, relaxed him. He slowly drifted back into sleep willingly. This time, knowing he was dreaming, Marduk simply sat and meditated in the dark room. The Vince shell creature was still there. It probably represented his confusion. Marduk was an experienced soul seeker, as all acolytes had to be. So he sat cross-legged and prayed and meditated. There was a lot to think about.
Firstly, since when was Vince my friend? I've only just met him. And how did a cultist get into the prestigious healing temple? And what was that strange burning substance? And why did it hurt so much? Nothing makes sense.
Vince was whistling as he walked through the deep forest, slashing the branches and bushes in front of him. He wasn't quite sure why he was helping this Marduk. Maybe it was because he reminded him of his little brother.
Ephrael.
He said it to himself as if it were a prayer. He stopped as he heard some rustling in the bushes behind him. He drew his spear from his back.
This has been episode 3 of the new Epic series. If you enjoyed this story, hit the like and subscribe buttons. If you liked it or have some suggestions, tell us in the comments. It really helps us out. Subscribe for more.